Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my testimony. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You may be seated. Now, this is a program where we take time to have an insight into some of the many miracles that the man of God is doing in our midst. Today, we have a powerful, powerful, powerful testimony. Something awesome happened to one of us. Help me, ladies and gentlemen, to welcome our guest on the program this morning, Miss Tinashe Sibanda. Let's welcome her, let's welcome her, let's welcome her. Thank you so much, thank you so much. You may be seated. Welcome to my testimony.
Thank you very much.
Now, I just want you to share with us the story of what happened to you. Just briefly.
It's not something that's so easy for me, but I have asked God to actually help me. So if you see me dropping a tear or shaking, I'm just overwhelmed with what God has done for me. So in mid-July, while I was on a work assignment.
This is last year, right?
Last year. I suddenly felt sharp pains on my right side.
You said you were on a work assignment. What sort of work do you do?
I'm a journalist.
You're a scribe.
Yes, I'm a journalist by profession. So while I was on the assignment, I felt a sharp pain, like a knife going through me. And it was something unbearable. I just couldn't believe what was happening to me because I had gone to work okay, and suddenly I wasn't feeling fine. I just couldn't even walk anymore. And the people that I was with were shocked. They were actually wondering what exactly was going on with me. But they realized that I wasn't even joking at the end of the day. And I was taken to an emergency room. And then the first thing that they said when they saw me, they're like, it's probably just acids. There's something that's just not right with the acids inside you. And they gave me some medication. And I went back home. And one thing for sure is I was taking the medication for acids, but I was just getting worse and worse. And I got worse in a few days to the extent that I could not even get out of my own bed. And then one of my friends decided to take me to another doctor. And then I got there. The doctor looked at me. I could see their face. You know, sometimes there are times when you go into a certain place and there's really nothing to it, but you can see in someone's face that they're seeing something that's not good on you. And I could see that on the doctor's face. So the doctor says, you need an X-ray, and this has to be an emergency. And for me, I was like, X-ray for what? He says, just relax. We need to do an emergency. Now, just don't say anything and wait till this happens. They did the X-ray, and the X-ray came out, and my right lung, oh my God, it had a big mass in it, a huge mass covering like almost all of it. I remember the doctor coming back to tell me the X-ray results. I mean, I'm not a medical practitioner, so I really didn't know how to explain the things that were on the... So he says, you don't look really good. And I said, what? How? how do I not look good? He says, yes, because your right lung is damaged. There's a mass that's there, and we're really not sure what that mass is. Were you sick all along? Were you feeling any pain all along? I said, no, it just happened. It just happened like a few days ago, and I just got worse in less than a week. A week is a bit too much. And he says, this is bad, to the extent that there is no way you cannot have either pneumonia or TB or some form of cancer, because it's just covering like everything in the lung. And for me, it was how, I just couldn't understand. I felt crushed because I had so many questions to God. I was asking God, like, God, how do you do that? How do you let that happen to me?
Whilst you're still there, I understand by then you were attending services irregularly. You'd come and then spend 3 months, and then you'd come back. Were you not yet born again, or you were not yet a believer then?
Well, actually, I was born again. I believed in Christ, but with the nature of, I would like to say the nature of my job as a journalist, it's not easy to accept certain things, that are spiritual. So for me, I was a bit skeptical. I was thinking, I see miracles in this church. Yeah, I see them. But how come it never happens to me? And how come the prophet doesn't come to me and say a word to me and tell me something that I know, then I can confirm it's true? So I was really skeptical. I was so skeptical.
Okay, so you were one of those that believe that this whole thing is a setup. They plant people here and there, and
I was like, there's a possibility that, people can be asked to say certain things like this. I mean, anyone can see it. Who can't see it? He's never said anything to me, so really. And at times, I would actually do certain things that were not right. And I would expect him maybe to come and tell me that, hey, yo, you need to live your life correct. But nothing like that would happen. So, for me, it was, yes, God is there, but all this, I'm not sure about it. I really wasn't sure it really existed.
Okay, so there you were. You'd just been told by the doctor it's either pneumonia or TB or cancer, and your spirit is crushed. We'll find out what happened when we come back for the next segment. We'll take a short break. Welcome back to the second segment of our program, My Testimony. Thank you so much. Our guest on the program is Tinashe Sibanda, who has just been telling us what she was going through. Let me invite my learned friend, Dr. Wilfred Mutewe, to come and to explain to us what was probably happening to Tinashe. Welcome, Doc, to My Testimony. Please be seated.
It's my pleasure, man of God.
Now, Doctor, you've obviously been listening to what Tinashe is saying, and I'm sure you had the chance to look at her x-rays and you saw what was happening to her. Can you explain to us what your colleagues saw?
Thank you, man of God. What Tinashe had was she had a mass in her right lung. And it was quite a huge mass, which was occupying almost 3/4 of the lung. We've got the x-rays.
Sorry, can you put it in layman's terms? When you say mass, what?
It was a lump, which was not lung tissue, but it was something else.
Just
At
foreign
that time,
tissue.
yes, it was a foreign tissue which was growing inside of the lung, which was just as if there were cells which are multiplying abnormally inside the lung. If we can look at that x-ray which is shown on the screen, it's the actual x-ray. If you look on the left side, it's written diaphragm. On the other side, you can't see the diaphragm. There is that whitish thing there. That's the mass which was occupying the lobe of one of the lobes of the lungs. This image here is showing, she later on had what we call a CT scan or a CAT scan, which shows the things in greater detail. You can see that whitish thing there. On the left side, you can see the lung clearly. That black thing is the lung on the left side. But on the right, the lung is like squashed below, and you can see the mass, which is whitish above. You can see where that blue arrow is showing. That was a very huge mass, which was now crushing the lung. And you know, the lungs are there for us to breathe properly without any discomfort. But once the lung is crushed like that, one becomes very short of breath because there is now little area for oxygen to exchange so that you can do your normal activities.
Okay, so in such cases, what happens? You've just told us that the lung was squashed. Physically, how does one suffer, if they do suffer at all?
Yeah, there's a great deal of discomfort which one suffers with such a huge mass. Number one, because like I said, the lung is supposed to extract oxygen, the oxygen which we breathe, and then it goes into the bloodstream. But because that mass has now pushed the lung away, there is now little room for oxygen to exchange. So one becomes very short of breath, and one cannot even walk for a long distance, or even a short distance for that matter, because they begin to feel very short of breath. Even after doing a very light work, they begin to feel very short of breath. And in such cases, one would need to be admitted into a hospital and probably be put on oxygen to supplement the oxygen which we breathe. Because the oxygen which we breathe, the air which we breathe, contains 21% oxygen. So we give them 100% oxygen so that they can maximize on the little lung reserve which is left. So she definitely needed to be admitted. And the doctors also needed to know exactly what it was by probably taking either a biopsy. When we say biopsy is you are now opening up the chest and you are now taking a piece of tissue and then you send it to the specialists who are going to analyze it and then tell you whether it's a cancer. If it's a cancer, what kind of a cancer is it? Or the other thing is the doctors were going to open and then take out the whole mass as a whole, and then it will be analyzed in the lab.
Okay, so Tinashe, you were feeling very tired after doing some light work.
I was feeling tired. I was feeling pain. I just felt like I really wasn't breathing like I was before. And I could feel my whole body actually deteriorating.
And the doctor said there would be need for hospitalization. Were you hospitalized?
Yes, the doctor I went to said, you need specialist care. We definitely can't keep you here. So I was transferred to another hospital where I was then admitted under specialist care. And the following day, the specialist said to me, we can't wait long.
Sorry, is that you there?
Yes.
Can't be. Wow.
Yeah. So I was taken to another hospital, and the specialist said, we can't keep you without knowing what this is because we don't want you waking up dead. A lot of
You
things.
said we don't want you waking up dead.
Yes. And a lot of things were going through my mind, like dead from where? This happened, I was at work. I should have felt something, but, so he tried to take out the mass from my side, and I was wide awake. I remember the pain was excruciating. It was horrible because I was awake. And I had a bunch of nurses surrounding me, trying to comfort me and tell me that everything will be fine. And I could see his face before he told me that there's something awkward happening with you. He says, we're trying to take it out, to kind of suck it out with these huge syringes. He started like with a very big sized syringe, and he tried another size, but there was just blood and blood and blood, of which he said that like normally that was what was supposed to come out because it's exactly where he was trying to suck out. And he says, we can't see anything.
So in actual fact, the doctors couldn't do anything about it.
No, they couldn't.
All right. Let's find out what later happened to Tinashe when we come back for our third and final segment. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the third and final segment of this week's edition of My Testimony. Thank you. Now, before we went for the break, you were just confirming with us that the doctors could not do anything about this mass.
They couldn't do anything.
And doctor, you were saying the mass was growing rapidly.
Yes, it was growing very rapidly.
Any chance it would have moved over to the other lung?
It's quite possible, man of God. And even the procedure which they were doing, initially they thought it was fluid. So they were trying to stick in a needle and to draw that fluid and then to send it to the lab. But because it was a mass, they couldn't take out the fluid. Because they thought that if they extract the fluid, it would give them clues as to what it was. But it wasn't working for them. And like you are saying, there is a chance that it could have spread to the other lung. And actually not just to the other lung, but even to the chest wall. Because imagine you are sticking a needle into a cancer or a tumor. As you withdraw your needle, you can seed it, what we call seeding of the tumor, spread it to the chest wall. So they were trying to help, but they could have caused even more problems in their helping of her.
Wow, 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 wow. My sister, I can see you are very touched. You just can't imagine it happening again. You would never want to go through such an experience.
I have never actually gone through anything like that my whole life, and I am more touched because of God's grace. Because I know if it was someone else, then they probably wouldn't have come out of that situation. It was just bad.
Okay, so you were out of work for how long?
Over a month and some days. In fact, I was meant to be out for quite a longer time, but wow.
I know.
It didn't turn out that way.
Now, tell us what happened. The doctors couldn't do anything about it. What then did you decide?
So the doctor started running tests on me. He did the TB test, and he needed it immediately. And it came out. It was negative. And, they were checking, using other means to see if I had any other ailment they were suspecting inside me. But, all the tests were coming out negative. And for him, he was shocked. He expressed that. He told me, he says, I don't get this. And this is a specialist I'm talking to. And I just had to stay in hospital, feeling so much pain and just deteriorating, as he just saw me every day and, just hoping that maybe each day he would come up with something, but nothing was happening.
Doctor, I know you don't like this question, but I'm going to ask you anyway. In your field, does it happen that you go blank?
Men of God, there are a lot of things which we don't have answers to. So it happens a lot that you end up not finding a diagnosis, and we end up blaming other things. And we end up saying, this is caused by this. And there is, for those who are in the medical field, there is one word which we use, which we say idiopathic. It means we don't know what it is, or we don't know the cause. So sometimes maybe we end up confusing patients with big words when we are also confused.
I like this man's honesty. So there you were, that this is surely a death sentence. The doctor doesn't know what it is. They obviously can't give you any medication. What then happened to you?
I was basically living in the hospital, knowing that they don't know anything. I had so many questions. I had, so many problems at that point. I felt I had so many problems, except my faith. I just believed that, maybe I just had hope, in fact, because my faith had at some point failed me. I just had hope that God would just give me another chance to be there for my daughter, for my parents. And I stayed there for more and more days. And I was getting angry. I was getting angry at everybody. I was just something else. And I remember one night, I was sleeping in there. It was like my home. They now treated me like someone who lives there. And one night...
This is in hospital?
This is in hospital, yeah. I had my private room there. And one night, I remember I dreamt. It was so vivid. I could not believe it because I was actually sweating when I woke up. I remember seeing, in the dream, the specialist who was attending to me. And he was standing somewhere near my bed, and there were people laughing at him. They were coming to him and laughing and, like mocking him. And for me, it didn't make sense. So from that moment onwards, I said, no way, no way. I go to UFI and, hey, this to me has to mean something. I might not have met my father and my mother, Prophet Emmanuel Makandiwa, before, but hey, I believe in the God that they serve. And Lord, I have been skeptical, but I want out. So I said to the specialist, can you please take me out of here? And he really didn't want to take me out. And I remember telling my mom that if he doesn't take me out, I'm running out of here. I don't know where they're gonna find me, but I am going out. If that God that Prophet Makandiwa talks about is there, he's the one that's gonna save me, because I am not staying to this. He said to me, well, you really seem to be wanting to go out, but we all can see what you're going through. So I'm just gonna let you go. And again, I believe it was God, because he still had the right to say no. But he let me go, and I remember coming out of that hospital in a wheelchair. I couldn't even walk. I had just deteriorated. I was pale. I had veins coming out of me. I was just a sorry sight. And, the next thing is my mom, she just couldn't tell what it was that was driving me to really want to get out. But she just thought, well, okay, we have to go and see someone else at least. She really convinced me. And she says, but this time, why don't we look for a medical practitioner that's from the same church with us for advice? That's when we went and we visited Dr. Mtewe.
And then I believe Dr. Mtewe referred you to the specialist of specialists. And then on the 3rd of August, you found yourself here.
Yes.
Tell us, what happened from there?
Well, to start with, when a surgeon was telling me to go to church, for me it didn't make sense. I really looked at him like, aren't you supposed to be doing your job?
Man of God, by the way, I am a surgeon, and the chest is my area. I'm a chest surgeon. So when she came to me, she thought she was coming to a surgeon. And then I looked at her, I looked at the CT scans and the x-rays. Then I said, okay, we can take a biopsy. I can take you to theater. We can take a biopsy or we can take the tumor out. But before we do that, why don't we try something else, which I know works. I've tested it and I know it works.
Wow, 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 wow. I don't think your colleagues in the medical field would be too pleased with that. Yes.
So I was hopeless already. And thank God for my mom as well, because, she was on his side for some reason. And I just thought, let me just do it for them. But, well, if God was really going to work for me, he should have just worked. I shouldn't have gone through this. If he is God, then why me? I mean, I had just, started to live my life in a way that I felt that, was right, and I was trying my best to come back to Christ in a very big way. And then I came to church. And I remember at that time, I had actually called one of my friends. I said, I told her that my funeral policy, you can find it in this drawer, and it's like this, it's like this. I'm not getting buried in a funny casket. I was ready to die. I was ready to die. And then I just came that day, they carried me through, and then they put me on a seat that was somewhere that side. And, I remember seeing the man of God, Prophet Emmanuel Makandiwa, talking. But I didn't hear anything. I was pale, I was in pain. So I was just there. I was like someone who's just there, but I really wasn't there. That's it. And I remember, what I do remember about that service is he had a bottle of anointing oil, and it's the day that he unveiled it. And he was speaking about it. And so people were standing up at some point, and I just decided, something inside me just drove me to why don't you just try and stand up and see what he may be talking about. But my whole belief system was really gone down. And for me, I was just, trying to reach out, and I was desperate. I was really desperate. And then suddenly, from where I remember, he opened the bottle of anointing oil. And at that time, I managed to stand up.
Let me understand this clearly, my sister. Was he anywhere near you?
He was not anywhere near me. He was right in front here.
And he just opened the bottle.
He just opened the bottle to demonstrate like how it's used during the time he was actually explaining more on the anointing oil. And when he just opened it, I found myself standing. My mom was probably shocked, and I was shocked too, because it's not anything that I could do, but at that moment, in a few seconds, I felt a wind, a cold wind coming from his direction.
Can you take that again? He opened the bottle, you felt a cold wind coming from his direction towards you.
Towards me. It was like a mint. I always say like a mintish kind of thing, because it felt like when you're taking a mint, you feel this cooling inside you. And I was feeling that, I was smelling it, I was feeling it, and I could feel and see that, you know, this is a wind. What is happening? And immediately the wind just came and hit me straight on my forehead. And when it did, I just fell back. And when I fell back, the wind started moving down into my nostrils, right into my body, and then it traveled, and I couldn't even stand. I wanted to stand, but I couldn't. It was too powerful for me. And at that point, I wasn't scared. There was some sort of peace that I had, because I knew that the place that I'm in, if I'm gonna die, then well, that's God's will, but I could feel the wind moving down my body, and it got right on my lung area, and I could feel like a shake. I actually remember some of the people, like from the health department that were near me. They were looking at me. They were wondering what's really happening, probably, and I'm not sure what they were thinking. But I kind of saw that. And my mom, she was in shock. I remember my mom coming to them saying, "Where's the prophet? I'm going to run to the prophet right now. My daughter is dying, and you people are leaving her dying like this." But I really wasn't dying. I was overwhelmed with the power that had come. And so it moved right from up my body. Like, I could feel it, you know, it's something that has never happened to me, and there was no mistake to it. I felt it moving down and shaking on my lungs and moving down, 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 even to my toes. I felt it, it got there. And then that very moment, I just stood up. I touched my lung. I couldn't feel any pain. I tried you know, when you don't understand how it feels like to actually get into hospital and be helpless when you least expect it. And for me, standing up was such an achievement. And I could stand up, I could do everything that I could not do for the past days. I was amazed.
It was just instant.
It was instant. I could do everything that I could not do. I tried it right there. I could lift my hands up. I could just, you know, move my legs, my feet. I could move my hands any direction. I could just, not feel any pain at all.
Oh, the pain was gone.
The pain was gone completely.
Now, after that, did you go back to the doctors?
Well, after that, I went back to the doctors. But before that night, I managed to make supper for my mom. And I remember she was in tears. She was looking at me. My daughter she couldn't believe it, because I know she had just asked my mom a few days before. She had just stopped going to school because she had to come and be with me, because I felt like I was dying. So she asked my mom, is my mom going? And she was just looking at me like, well, what is happening with this person? At one time, she was bedridden and getting worse, and now she's cooking for us. And so, yeah, the next day, I went back to see the doctor, and I told him everything that had transpired.
Which
And
doctor now? This one?
I went to Dr. Mtewe.
Okay.
Yes, because he's the one who had actually advised me to, come for church before anything.
Okay. Now, doctor, did you take any more x-rays, any more scans after that?
Yes, man of God. When she came to me clinically, she looked very well. But she's a journalist. She wanted the evidence that she was healed. So I said, okay, it's fine. I'm going to order another chest x-ray. And then we'll compare the one before and the one after prayer. And I'm sure the media guys can show us the x-ray after the prayer. That's her x-ray after prayer. You can see there's her name written down there, Tinashe Zibanda. In case somebody might say it's another person's x-ray.
The one on the left is before prayer, the one on the right is
after prayer. And there is actually a report which was written by the specialist after prayer.
The lung fields are clear. No focal or diffuse pathology is seen. There is no evidence of any active tuberculosis. The heart is normal in size and configuration. No pleural, hilar, or medicinal pathology is seen. Essentially normal examination. This is how many days after? The 30th of August. You came on the 3rd of August.
I came on the 3rd. I went back on the next day. And, it was just after.
She went for the x-ray the day after, but the x-ray was normal. But to her, she needed a report. That's why we had a discrepancy on the date. The it was then reported 3 weeks later. But the x-ray was taken the very following day.
The 4th of August.
The specialist hadn't written the report, so I asked for a report. I said, no, she needs to see something which is written. Because, I might be telling her what I wanted her to know. But so the specialist had to write a report 2 weeks later on.
Well, what then shall we say? Thank you very much, my sister. Thank you very much, doctor. When miracles do happen, it is just a reminder that God is still in the business of working out miracles. Your miracle is on the way. My miracle is on the way.
There is not a name. For you're my healer, you're my healer.